Hey there, learner. You've really tossed a fascinating query into the search bar this time. Information retrieval. But honestly, who can blame you? It's one of those hidden giants of the digital world, quietly powering so much of what we do online.
It's like the plumbing of the internet, right? They don't necessarily think about it. But without it,
Mm,
everything would come to a grinding halt.
exactly. And whether you're prepping for a tech interview, diving into the latest AI trends, or just insanely curious about how search engines actually work, get ready to have your mind blown because today's deep dive is all about IR, from its humble beginnings to its mind-blowing future.
And trust me, there are some real aha moments in store. We're going to unpack exactly how IR has evolved from simple keyword matching to these incredibly complex AI-powered systems that can practically finish your sentences.
Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves, let's start with the basics. What exactly information retrieval? I mean, we all use it every day, but can we pin down a definition?
Absolutely. In a nutshell, IR is the science of searching for specific information within a massive collection of data. Think of it as trying to find a single grain of sand on a beach. But instead of a beach, it's the entire internet. And instead of your hands, it's a super-powered algorithm.
Okay, that's a pretty epic analogy, but you're right. It's not just about finding any information, it's about finding the right information as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Precisely. And that's where things get really interesting, because it's not like computers inherently understand what we're looking for. We have to teach them how to interpret our messy human language, and then rank the results in a way that actually makes sense.
And that's no easy feat when you consider the sheer scale of information out there. We're talking billions of web pages, documents, emails, social media posts. It's practically infinite.
It's mind-boggling, and that's why IR is such a critical field. It's not just about satisfying our curiosity. It's powering everything from the search engines we use every day to cutting-edge scientific discoveries.
You know, it's funny to think that something so fundamental to our digital lives actually started out pretty low-tech.
Oh, absolutely. Back in the early days of IR, we're talking pre-internet here, it was all about those clunky old library card catalogs, but digitized.
Right. Those early systems relied on simple keyword matching. So if you wanted to find a book about, say, space exploration, you could only search for those exact words.
Exactly. And while those early attempts might seem primitive now, they laid the groundwork for everything that came after. But then boom, the internet explodes onto the scene. And suddenly we're not dealing with a library anymore. We're dealing with an ever-expanding universe of information.
And that's when things really took off for IR, right? The sheer volume and complexity of the web forced researchers and engineers to come up with entirely new ways of searching and organizing information.
It was a pivotal moment. And those early search engines like Google had to be incredibly innovative. They were basically writing the rule book on how to navigate this brand new digital landscape.
And just like any pioneers, they had their fair share of challenges to overcome, right? Like, how do you even begin to create a system that can keep up with the constantly growing, ever-changing beast that is the internet?
It was a monumental task.
Mm-hmm.
And to understand just how far we've come, we need to take a closer look at the inner workings of these IR engines.
Right, let's pop the hood and see what's really going on under the surface. I love how our source material breaks it down, using the analogy of a well-organized library.
It's a perfect way to visualize it.
Yeah.
So imagine you walk into this massive digital library. The first thing you need is a vast collection of books, right? That's our corpus. All the documents, web pages, images, videos, and basically any other digital content that our system can search through.
So if the internet is the library, then the corpus is all the books on the shelves, from dusty old classics to the latest bestsellers.
Precisely. But even in a well-organized library, you wouldn't want to go through every single book to find what you're looking for, right? That's where our next key component comes in, the index.
Ah, the index. It's like the super-powered card catalog of the digital age.
Exactly. Think of it as a giant database that maps every word or term in the corpus to the specific documents where they appear. So when you type in a search query, the system doesn't have to scan through billions of web pages. It can instantly narrow down the search to a much smaller, more manageable set of documents that contain those keywords.
It's all about speed and efficiency, which is essential when you're dealing with the vastness of the internet. But even with a super fast index, there's still the issue of understanding what the user is really looking for.
Right, because sometimes our searches aren't as clear as we think they are. That's where the query processor comes in. It's like the helpful librarian who can decipher your ramblings and translate them into something the system can understand.
So if I were to stumble up to this digital librarian and mumble something like, oh, I need something about, space, but like not the planets, more like the final frontier kind of thing.
Hmm.
The query processor would be able to make sense of that.
Exactly. It's about bridging the gap between our often imprecise human language and the cold, hard logic of computer language. The query processor looks for synonyms, interprets context, and tries to figure out the true intent behind your search.
Wow, that's fascinating. It's like having a personal translator for the digital world. Okay, so we've got our massive collection of information, our supercharged card catalog, and our expert translator. What happens next in this IR adventure?
Well, now it's time to figure out which of those potentially relevant documents are the most relevant.
Yeah.
And that's where the real magic of IR comes in, the retrieval model.
Okay, so the retrieval model is like the set of rules.
Yeah.
Or the secret formula that determines which books our digital librarian is going to pull off the shelves for us, right?
You got it. And these models have become incredibly sophisticated over time, using complex algorithms and mathematical equations to rank the relevance of search results.
So it's not just about finding documents that contain the keywords. It's about understanding the context, the meaning, and even the intent behind those keywords to deliver the most accurate and relevant results. This is where it starts to feel like the system can actually read your mind.
It's true, and we're going to dive deeper into these different models and how they've evolved over time. But first, let's talk about the final piece of the puzzle, the ranking algorithm.
Ah, yes. The ranking algorithm is what ultimately determines the order in which we see those search results. And let's be honest, no one wants to scroll through pages and pages of irrelevant links. We want the good stuff right at the top.
Exactly. The ranking algorithm is, like our librarian, presenting us with a carefully curated selection of books, with the most promising ones right on top.
So we've got this whole library metaphor going on, with a supercharged card catalog and a mind-reading librarian. But how did these IR systems actually evolve to become so smart? Did they always have this uncanny ability to predict what we're looking for?
Not quite. To really appreciate how far we've come, let's rewind back to the early days of IR and the reign of the Boolean model.
Ah, yes, the Boolean model. It sounds very official and maybe even a little bit intimidating.
It's actually quite simple, which is one of the reasons it's still used in some applications today. Remember those early library computer catalogs we talked about?
Yes.
The ones where you could search for books using keywords and connectors like A&D or R, and not, that's the Boolean model in action.
Okay, so it's like building a very specific, rule-based search query. If I'm looking for documents about artificial intelligence and ethics, the Boolean model would only show me results that contain both of those terms.
Precisely. It's great when you need very precise matches, like when you're doing a legal search and need to find documents with very specific wording.
Yeah.
But as you can imagine, it can also be quite limiting.
I can see how that might lead to some dead ends. What if I don't know the exact keywords to use? Or what if I'm interested in a broader concept that might be expressed in different ways?
That's exactly where the Boolean model starts to crumble. There's no ranking system. So you might get hundreds of results that aren't really what you're after. And even more importantly, you might miss out on some really relevant information just because it doesn't use those exact keywords.
Okay, so that makes total sense. The Boolean model is like a very precise but also very literal-minded librarian. You need to know exactly what you're looking for to get the right results.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that's why the world of IR needed to evolve beyond this simple keyword matching. Enter the vector space model.
The vector space model. Okay. This sounds a bit more complex, even a little mysterious. What's the story here?
It is a bit more abstract, but incredibly elegant and powerful once you grasp the basic idea. Imagine, if you will, that each word in a document or search query is like a coordinate in a vast, multidimensional space.
Okay, I'm trying to picture this. So, words that are similar in meaning would be clustered closer together in this space, kind of like stars in a constellation.
You're on the right track. Documents that share a lot of the same words will be closer together in this vector space, while documents that are completely unrelated will be further apart. So when you search for something, the system calculates the distance between your query and all the documents in the corpus, with the understanding that closer usually means more relevant.
So it's not just about matching exact keywords anymore, it's about understanding the underlying meaning and relationships between words. That's seriously cool. But how does the system actually measure this distance between words and documents? It sounds almost poetic.
It's actually very mathematical. One common way to measure this similarity is using something called cosine similarity, without getting too deep into the math. Imagine drawing lines from each word in your query and each word in a document to the origin of this vector space. The smaller the angle between those lines, the more similar those words or documents are, and the higher they'll rank in your search results.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. So it's like each word has its own unique location and relationship to every other word in this vast, multidimensional universe of language.
Exactly. The vector space model revolutionized IR by allowing for much more nuanced and flexible searching. But the real game changer came when we started incorporating artificial intelligence into these models.
Yes, AI. It feels like AI is revolutionizing just about every aspect of our digital lives these days. How did it take IR to the next level?
Imagine a system that not only understands the relationships between words, but also learns from every search query, every click, every interaction a user makes. That's the power of machine learning in IR.
So this system is constantly getting smarter and better at understanding what people are actually looking for, almost like it's reading our minds, but in a good way.
Precisely. Think about how your Netflix recommendations seem to get better over time. That's machine learning at work, analyzing your viewing history to predict what you might enjoy. IR systems do something very similar, using your past behavior and the behavior of millions of other users to personalize and refine future search results.
That's incredible. It's like having a personal assistant who's constantly learning your preferences and anticipating your needs. But it's not just about understanding our past behavior, right? AI is also helping IR systems understand the nuances of human language in ways we never thought possible.
Absolutely, and that's where natural language processing, or NLP, comes in. NLP is all about teaching computers to really understand the complexities of human language, the slang, the sarcasm, the humor, the double meanings, all those things that make us human.
Right, context is everything. And let's be honest, human language can be incredibly messy and ambiguous. So how does NLP actually work in the context of IR? How do we teach computers to decipher our sometimes confusing ways of communicating?
One of the key applications of NLP and IR is something called query expansion. Remember how we talked about the limitations of the Boolean model, where if you didn't use the exact right keywords, you might miss out on crucial information.
Yeah, it was like trying to have a conversation with a robot who could only understand a very limited set of commands.
Exactly. With query expansion, the system can actually analyze your query and automatically add synonyms, related terms, or even reformulate the query to be broader or more specific. It's like having a built-in thesaurus and grammar editor that helps you craft the most effective search possible.
That is incredibly helpful. I know I've definitely been frustrated in the past when I couldn't find what I was looking for just because I didn't use the perfect wording. It's like the search engine could tell I was on the right track but couldn't quite grasp what I was getting at.
And that's the beauty of NLP. It's all about bridging that gap between human intention and computer understanding. But NLP is not just about improving the search itself, it's also paving the way for more intuitive and conversational search interfaces.
You mean being able to have a more natural back and forth conversation with the search engine? Kind of like how I'm talking to you right now.
Exactly. We're already seeing this with voice assistants like Siri and Alexa, where you can ask questions in a more conversational way and get relevant answers. But as NLP technology continues to evolve, we can expect even more sophisticated interactions with search engines.
That's so cool. It's like having a research assistant who's always available to answer your questions and point you in the right direction. So instead of typing in a string of keywords, we might be able to have an actual dialogue with our search engines, asking follow-up questions and refining our searches in real time.
Exactly. It's about moving beyond keywords and getting closer to how we naturally communicate with each other. And this opens up a whole world of possibilities for how we find and interact with information, from personalized learning experiences to highly specialized question-answering systems.
It's incredible to think how far we've come from those early days of simple keyword matching to these incredibly sophisticated AI-powered systems that can understand the nuances of human language and even anticipate our needs. But I have to ask, if this is where we are now, what does the future hold for IR? What's next for how we find and connect with information in this ever-evolving digital age?
That's the million-dollar question, and while I don't have a crystal ball, I can tell you that the future of IR is brimming with possibilities. One thing's for sure, the volume of data is only going to continue to explode, so the IR systems of the future will need to be even more powerful and adaptable to handle it all.
Okay, so we've covered everything from the inner workings of search engines to the mind-blowing potential of AI-powered IR. But let's zoom in on some specific fields where IR is quietly revolutionizing the way things are done.
It's amazing to see how IR is being applied in all sorts of specialized domains.
Yeah.
One area where it's absolutely essential is in legal and medical research.
It makes sense when you think about it. The sheer volume of information in those fields is overwhelming, even for seasoned experts.
Exactly. Imagine a lawyer needing to find a precedent for a specific legal case, buried within mountains of legal documents, or a doctor searching for the latest research on a rare disease. IR systems tailored to these fields can sift through massive databases of legal texts or medical journals to pinpoint the most relevant information in a fraction of the time it would take a human.
Talk about a game changer in terms of efficiency, and in some cases, it could even be life-saving.
Absolutely. And it doesn't stop there. Think about the world of social media, which is practically exploding with data every second. IR is crucial for analyzing trends, monitoring brand sentiment, and even identifying potential PR crises before they spiral out of control.
It's like having a finger on the pulse of what everyone's talking about online, which is incredibly valuable for businesses and organizations these days.
Precisely. Companies are using IR to understand their customers better, track their competitors' moves, and tailor their marketing campaigns in real time based on what people are saying on social media. It's all about staying ahead of the curve and adapting to the ever-changing digital landscape.
And speaking of understanding customers, IR is the driving force behind those eerily accurate product recommendations we see on e-commerce sites these days, right? The "you might also like" or "customers who bought this also bought" suggestions that seem to know our tastes better than we know ourselves.
You nailed it. Every time you see those recommendations, that's IR working its magic behind the scenes. It's all about analyzing your past behavior, your browsing history, your purchase history, even your ratings and reviews to predict what you might be interested in.
I have to admit, it's both impressive and a little bit creepy how well these systems seem to know us sometimes. Like, how did they know I needed a new spatula and a pair of noise-canceling headphones? It's like they're reading my mind.
Yeah. Well, it's all about data. The more you interact with a site, the more information you provide, consciously or not. And the better these IR systems become at creating a profile of your preferences. And it's not just about recommending products, it's about personalizing the entire online shopping experience, from the search results you see to the special offers you receive.
It's amazing how IR is shaping our digital lives in ways we often don't even realize. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left wondering, what does the future hold for IR? What's next for how we find and connect with information in this ever-evolving digital age?
That's the big question, isn't it? One thing is for sure. The future of information retrieval is going to be even more personalized, more intuitive, and more integrated into our daily lives.
It's exciting to think about. Imagine a world where information finds us.
Yeah.
Anticipating our needs before we even have to ask.
Exactly. We're moving towards a future where search engines are more like trusted advisors or companions, guiding us through the ever-growing ocean of information and helping us make sense of the world around us.
It's like having a personal research assistant who's always one step ahead, curating the information we need, when we need it, in a way that makes sense to us.
Exactly, and this is just the beginning. As IR technology continues to evolve and merge with other cutting-edge fields like AI, machine learning, and natural language processing, we can expect even more exciting and transformative breakthroughs in the years to come.
It's a pretty incredible time to be a curious mind with an internet connection, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And the most important thing is to stay curious, keep exploring, and never stop asking questions. The more we engage with these technologies, the more we contribute to shaping the future of how we connect with information and with each other.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the incredible world of information retrieval. We hope you've enjoyed this journey through the past, present, and future of search, and that you've gained some valuable insights along the way. Until next time, keep those search bars busy and those curious minds engaged.